At exactly 1 minute ago, the fragile peace in the Middle East completely shattered, as the skies over the Strait of Hormuz turned into a blinding canvas of fire and electronic warfare. The United States Navy carrier Strike Group, spearheaded by the colossal Gerald R. Ford, found itself thrust into the absolute epicenter of a meticulously orchestrated ambush designed by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. It is the sweltering month of July in the year 2026, and the geopolitical landscape of the region has been irrevocably altered following the dramatic collapse of the June ceasefire agreement. The United States, under the decisive command of President Donald Trump, formally declared the Memorandum of Understanding null and void after Iran brazenly attacked 3 commercial vessels in international waters. This aggressive Iranian maneuvering was a desperate bid to assert hegemonic control over the vital maritime chokepoint and force global shipping to pay exorbitant transit fees. Simultaneously, the broader Middle Eastern theater is engulfed in unprecedented turmoil. Israel is currently executing a multifaceted military campaign, facing intense localized clashes in Lebanon, while simultaneously maintaining relentless strategic pressure in Palestine. The situation in Palestine, particularly within the Gaza Strip, remains exceedingly volatile as Israeli defense forces consolidate their operational control along the designated Yellow Line, attempting to dismantle hostile militant infrastructures amidst a devastating humanitarian crisis. The reverberations of the conflict in Palestine are felt deeply across the Arab world, providing a potent ideological fuel for Iran and its intricate network of proxy militias. As the American Armada navigated the narrow throat of the strait, the Iranian forces executed a massive, multi-domain saturation attack. Hundreds of heavily armed Zulfikar fast attack craft, moving at speeds exceeding 70 knots, surged from hidden coastal coves along the jagged shoreline of Keshem Island. These vessels were not acting alone. They deliberately intertwined their formations with civilian oil tankers and merchant ships, creating a complex, high-stakes human shield designed to paralyze the American rules of engagement. The tactical objective was clear: force the United States Navy to either hold its fire or risk a catastrophic international incident by inadvertently destroying a civilian vessel. But the kinetic threat was merely the secondary layer of this elaborate trap. The primary assault was entirely invisible, broadcast across the electromagnetic spectrum. Iranian electronic warfare units, utilizing advanced Russian-engineered Avtobaza and Murmansk systems, unleashed a torrential flood of high-power radio frequency jamming and synthetic aperture radar spoofing. The sophisticated Spy-6 radar screens aboard the American Arleigh Burke-class destroyers were instantaneously inundated with thousands upon thousands of phantom contacts. The Aegis combat system, the digital brain of the fleet, was forced to process an overwhelming deluge of false telemetry, temporarily blinding the American commanders to the true vector of the incoming threat. However, the United States Navy is not a force that succumbs easily to digital disorientation. Exhibiting cold, calculated discipline, the tactical action officers initiated immediate countermeasure. Launching from the sprawling flight deck of the aircraft carrier, a squadron of E-18 Growler electronic attack aircraft roared into the stratosphere. These aerial platforms deployed their next-generation jammer pods, projecting concentrated beams of electromagnetic energy that sliced through the Iranian white noise like a scalpel, isolating the hostile emitting sources and burning through the localized interference. Concurrently, high above the chaotic maritime battlefield, the Israeli Air Force seamlessly integrated into the unfolding operation, demonstrating the profound depth of the military alliance between Israel and the United States. A formation of F-35I Adir stealth fighters, operating in absolute emissions control silence, slipped undetected into the contested airspace. These fifth-generation Marvels functioned as silent quarterbacks, their distributed aperture systems passively soaking up the expansive electronic order of battle, without broadcasting a single watt of detectable energy. The seamless data sharing between the Israeli aircraft and the American naval integrated fire control network created an impregnable, multi-layered defensive umbrella. Realizing their electronic smokescreen was rapidly dissipating, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard commanders authorized the launch of their primary anti-ship ordnance. A terrifying salvo of 24 Nord and Kader cruise missiles erupted from concealed mobile launchers nestled deep within the Zagros mountain. These heavily modified, sea-skimming predators dropped to an altitude of a mere 10 feet above the churning ocean swells, utilizing the curvature of the Earth and the heavy sea clutter to mask their approach from the long-range radar system. They were hurtling toward the United States fleet at high subsonic speeds, representing a billion-dollar nightmare scenario that naval tacticians have dreaded for decades. As the missiles breached the radar horizon, the American destroyers reacted with automated, ruthless efficiency. The vertical launch systems erupted in a synchronized ballet of fire and smoke, unleashing a barrage of Standard Missile 2 and Standard Missile 6 interceptors. The sky above the Strait of Hormuz was instantly crisscrossed by the brilliant, chalk-white contrails of supersonic missiles racing to intercept their target. The deafening roar of solid rocket motors echoed across the water as the American interceptors violently swatted the Iranian cruise missiles out of the sky, transforming them into harmless clouds of raining titanium and burning composite materials. For the few Iranian missiles that managed to survive the outer layer of the defensive screen, the phalanx close in weapon systems mounted on the destroyers instantly spooled up, vomiting a literal wall of depleted uranium projectiles at a mind-boggling rate of 4,500 rounds per minute, completely shredding the incoming threats just hundreds of yards away from the fragile hulls of the warships. Simultaneously, the Israeli stealth fighters transitioned from passive observation to active prosecution, utilizing the exact coordinates supplied by the American electronic warfare aircraft. The Israeli pilots released a volley of precision-guided small-diameter bombs. These highly accurate munitions glided silently through the dense coastal air, striking the heavily fortified Iranian radar installations and mobile missile batteries with surgical precision. The deafening explosions systematically blinded the Iranian coastal defense network, effectively decapitating their ability to guide any further anti-ship salvos. The synergy between the United States Navy and the Israeli Air Force showcased a devastating display of Allied technological supremacy. Yet, the Iranian offensive was far from exhausted. Beneath the turbulent surface of the strait, a far more insidious threat was quietly maneuvering into position. An Iranian Kilo-class diesel-electric submarine, colloquially known as the Black Hole of the Ocean due to its incredibly low acoustic signature when operating on battery power, was attempting to creep within torpedo firing range of the American supercarrier. The submarine commander believed he was completely invisible, masked by the deafening acoustic chaos generated by the surface engagement and the complex thermal layers of the shallow Gulf waters. Unfortunately for the Iranian crew, the United States Navy's anti-submarine warfare capabilities are unparalleled. A P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, loitering high above the fray, began systematically dropping a dense network of directional command active sonobuoys. These sophisticated listening devices formed a digital acoustic net, relaying real-time telemetry back to the fleet. Within moments, the subtle rhythmic cavitation of the submarine's propeller was detected, analyzed, and positively identified. Down in the lightless depths, a United States Navy Virginia-class nuclear attack submarine, the US Indiana, was already silently stalking the Iranian vessel. Rather than launching a lethal Mark 48 torpedo and risking an uncontrollable underwater escalation, the American submarine commander opted for a tactic of extreme psychological and physical pressure. The US Indiana maneuvered aggressively into the Iranian submarine's acoustic blind spot, its baffles, and unleashed a concentrated, high-power active sonar pinged directly against the enemy hull. The sheer acoustic force of the ping reverberated through the Iranian vessel like a physical hammer blow, deafening their sensitive sonar arrays and shattering the morale of the crew. Realizing they were hopelessly outmatched, perfectly targeted, and facing imminent destruction, the Iranian captain ordered an emergency blow of the ballast tanks. The massive black hull of the submarine violently breached the ocean's surface, completely surrendering its stealth advantage and publicly humiliating the Iranian naval forces. The situation on the surface continued to escalate as Iran, desperate to inflict casualties, unleashed a massive swarm of several hundred Shahd suicide drones. These low-cost, propeller-driven loitering munitions darkened the sky like a plague of locusts, attempting to overwhelm the American point defense systems through sheer weight of numbers. However, the United States Navy had anticipated this exact asymmetric tactic. Utilizing highly classified, high-power microwave weapon systems recently deployed to the theater, the American warships projected broad, invisible cones of concentrated electromagnetic energy. As the drone's swarm entered the kill zone, the intense microwave radiation instantly overloaded their delicate, unshielded electronic circuit. The drone's flight control computers fried in a fraction of a second, causing the entire swarm to lose propulsion and plummet harmlessly into the sea like a rain of dead birds. Meanwhile, the conflict continued to metastasize across the broader region. In a show of solidarity with Iran, Houthi rebels in Yemen launched a coordinated volley of medium-range ballistic missiles aimed directly at strategic military installations within Israel. The Israeli defense establishment, operating on high alert, detected the thermal blooms of the launches immediately. The highly advanced Arrow 3 anti-ballistic missile system was activated, launching its interceptors high into the exosphere. The Israeli interceptors successfully collided with the Houthi missiles outside the Earth's atmosphere, creating brilliant, silent flashes of light in the dark sky, completely neutralizing the threat before it could re-enter the atmosphere. The regionalization of the conflict highlighted the profound interconnectedness of the Middle Eastern security architecture, where actions in the Strait of Hormuz directly trigger reactions from Yemen to Palestine to Lebanon. The humanitarian implications of this sudden explosion of violence are staggering. The global energy markets reacted with immediate, predictable panic, with the price of crude oil skyrocketing past $100 a barrel, as the primary artery of global energy transport was effectively severed by the ongoing hostility. The United Nations Secretary-General issued an urgent, impassioned plea for immediate de-escalation, warning that a full-scale regional conflagration would result in an unprecedented catastrophe for the civilian populations already suffering from the prolonged conflicts in Palestine and the economic instability in Iran. The United States President, remaining resolute, authorized a punitive retaliatory strike package to degrade Iran's command and control infrastructure. United States Navy submarines, lurking undetected in the deeper waters of the Arabian Sea, unleashed a devastating barrage of Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. These long-range, precision weapons navigated hundreds of miles inland, utilizing advanced terrain contour matching to avoid Iranian air defenses, before obliterating key Revolutionary Guard communications bunkers and drone assembly facilities deeply buried beneath the Iranian desert. The strikes were designed not to topple the regime, but to severely degrade their capacity to project power and threaten international commerce. As the sun began to rise over the smoking, debris-filled waters of the Strait of Hormuz, an uneasy, highly volatile stalemate settled over the region. The United States and Israel had decisively won the immediate tactical engagement, proving the absolute superiority of their integrated, multi-domain war-fighting networks. They had successfully dismantled the complex Iranian ambush, neutralized the electronic warfare threats, swatted down the missile salvos, and humiliated their submarine forces without losing a single capital ship. Yet the strategic victory remained elusive. Iran, despite suffering significant material losses, had successfully achieved its primary political objective of demonstrating its ability to completely disrupt the global economy and force the world's most powerful militaries into a high-stakes, incredibly dangerous game of brinkmanship. The once vibrant commercial shipping lanes now sat empty, littered with the burning wreckage of fast boats and the lingering threat of unexploded ordnance. The shadow war that had simmered for years had now erupted into the glaring light of open conflict, leaving the international community scrambling to find a diplomatic off-ramp before the cycle of retaliation spiraled into a devastating, uncontrollable world war. The historical context leading up to this explosive morning cannot be overstated. For decades, the tension between the United States and Iran has resembled a slowly tightening coil, fraught with proxy wars, economic sanctions, and covert operation. The situation in Palestine has perennially served as a fundamental ideological flashpoint, with Iran heavily financing and equipping various militant factions to actively resist the State of Israel. The Israeli government, determined to secure its borders and protect its citizens from relentless rocket attacks and insurgent incursions, has consistently maintained a robust and uncompromising military posture. The recent operations within Palestine, specifically the intensive urban combat operations conducted by the Israeli Defense Forces within the densely populated sectors of Gaza, have drawn intense international scrutiny and provided Iran with a potent propaganda tool to rally its domestic base and regional proxies. The profound suffering of the civilian populace in Palestine, caught in the devastating crossfire of this enduring geopolitical struggle, remains a tragic and unresolved humanitarian catastrophe. The United States, acting as the primary strategic guarantor for Israel, finds itself perpetually navigating this incredibly complex diplomatic and military minefield. The election of President Donald Trump ushered in a renewed era of maximum pressure against the Iranian regime, systematically dismantling previous diplomatic frameworks and heavily reinforcing the American military footprint across the Middle East. The sudden death of the Iranian supreme leader earlier in the year created a perilous power vacuum in Tehran, leading to the rise of hardline factions within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, who view direct confrontation with the United States and Israel not merely as a tactical option, but as an existential religious imperative. These hardline commanders believe that projecting strength through aggressive asymmetric warfare is the only viable method to ensure the survival of their regime in the face of overwhelming Western technological superiority. Consequently, they have heavily invested in anti-access and area denial capabilities, explicitly designed to turn the narrow, congested waters of the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz into a lethal kill zone for the United States Navy. The sophisticated ambush we witnessed today was the culmination of years of meticulous planning, wargaming, and covert arms procurement. The Iranian strategy does not rely on matching American military might vessel for vessel or aircraft for aircraft, which they know is a mathematical impossibility. Instead, they focus intensely on exploiting perceived vulnerabilities in the American rules of engagement, utilizing vast quantities of relatively inexpensive, easily replaceable weapon systems to overwhelm the highly advanced, but numerically limited, defensive interceptors of the American fleet. The deployment of the heavily armed fast attack craft, the utilization of commercial shipping as human shields, and the massive saturation barrages of suicide drones and sea-skimming cruise missiles are all hallmark tactics of this asymmetric doctrine. Furthermore, the Iranian integration of advanced electronic warfare systems, primarily sourced from their strategic partnership with the Russian Federation, adds a deeply concerning new dimension to their operational capabilities. The ability to temporarily blind or confuse the sophisticated Aegis combat system, even for a few critical seconds, provides the Iranian missiles with a terrifying window of opportunity to breach the defensive perimeter. The United States Navy, acutely aware of these evolving threats, has continuously refined its own operational doctrines and technological countermeasure. The seamless integration of the stealthy F-35 aircraft, capable of penetrating contested airspace and passively gathering immense amounts of electronic intelligence without revealing their own position, represents a massive leap forward in situational awareness. The robust data-sharing architecture of the Naval Integrated Fire Control Network allows every single ship, aircraft, and submarine within the strike group to operate as a unified, deeply interconnected organism, instantaneously sharing targeting data and automatically allocating the most appropriate weapon system to eliminate each specific threat. The presence of the Israeli Air Force in this engagement further underscores the profound level of military coordination between the two allied nations, demonstrating their shared commitment to neutralizing the Iranian threat and ensuring the free flow of commerce through one of the world's most critical economic arteries. However, despite the overwhelming tactical success of the American and Israeli forces in repelling the initial ambush, the strategic reality remains deeply troubling. The fundamental underlying issues that ignited this conflict remain entirely unresolved. The Iranian regime remains defiantly entrenched in power. The situation in Palestine continues to fester without a viable political resolution, and the global economy remains acutely vulnerable to any disruption of the Middle Eastern oil supply. The massive expenditure of highly sophisticated, multi-million-dollar interceptor missiles to defeat relatively cheap Iranian drones and older-generation cruise missiles raises serious long-term logistical questions regarding the sustainability of this defensive strategy in a prolonged war of attrition, as the United States military planners in the Pentagon frantically analyze the vast amounts of sensor data collected during the engagement, and diplomats at the United Nations desperately seek a path toward de-escalation. The sobering truth is that the threshold for a major regional war has been significantly lowered. The Middle East stands on the absolute precipice of a devastating conflagration, where a single miscalculation, a single malfunctioning sensor, or a single stray missile could easily ignite a chain reaction of violence that would engulf the entire region, drawing in global superpowers and causing untold devastation and suffering. The uneasy silence that currently blankets the Strait of Hormuz is not a genuine peace, but rather a tense, highly fragile pause as both sides frantically reload their weapons, reassess their strategies, and prepare for the inevitable next chapter in this enduring, high-stakes struggle for dominance, security, and survival in the most volatile region on the face of the Earth.